Previously, we said individual has no right to own a church. And we'll talk about church planting, exercise procedures, and establishment. Now, we want to explain. First and foremost, let's look at the book of Matthew chapter 18. Matthew 16 rather, verse 18. Christ said something in the book of Matthew. When he had the disciples, say, what do you think that men think I am? Some answered different questions or different answers. They gave him different answer. Then Peter got it. He said, you are the Son of Man. You came from heaven. You are the Son of God, rather. You came from heaven. He now said, flesh and blood did not reveal to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Based on that, he said, I will plant my church. I will establish my church. Upon this rock, I will build my church, and the gate of hell shall not prevail against it. Now, Peter was found competent to handle the church. Christ did not say, I will build your church, or upon this rock, go and build your church. But he said, upon this rock, I will build my church, and the gate of hell shall not prevail against it. Because an individual cannot, flesh and blood, cannot chase Satan. It is only the superior master, it is only God that can fight Satan. Because in as much as we are human beings and Satan is here, as soon as church is being established, Satan must come to fight the church. That means it is only the superior master that have the right to fight Satan. That is why church is owned by God. But a human being can establish church. God can use a human being to plant church, can use you to establish the church and prepare souls for heaven. Then also see in the book of Acts of the Apostle, chapter 2, from verse 40, you read to 47, where Paul the Apostle planted the church as well. The Bible said he went from house to house, teaching them the gospel. After preaching, the Bible said 3,000 souls rather came to Christ. Thereafter, they brought them to the temple, they nurtured them, they established them, they still returned back to their home, and they were going house to house, breaking bread, giving them, all they have, giving them by selling their possession, giving them, feeding them, taking care of the poor. That is what they're talking about. That is how to plant a church. After planting the church, Paul did not own the church. Paul did not own the church. That is what they're talking about. After planting church, you don't own it. You allow the Holy Spirit to take control. And that is why we said an individual has no right to own a church. You can plant a church, but you cannot own it. Paul established those souls that was, established. After that, Paul went to another city. That is why we see in the book of Acts of Apostles, chapter 20, verse 25. When I pray, Paul said, when I preach, I see your face no more. After preaching, planting a church in a particular city, he go back to another city and he will see those people no more, except by going to greet them, or by giving them a letter, writing a letter to them. Letters we are seeing in the New Testament was a letter. The first letter of Paul to Corinth was a letter to greet them, greet the church. Paul did not absorb authority over the church and say, bring returns from Corinthian church, from Philippian church, from Galatian church. Say, bring a return, because he has planted the church. He now said, okay, bring the returns to headquarter church. It's not any company that you, after establishing, and you ask the people to bring returns. It's no longer a church, it becomes a business enterprise. Now, these are the procedures that the Old Testament believers, or we talk about the early church, use, or the method they use in planting church. After planting, they go away. Now you see also in the book of Romans chapter 16, verse 5, Paul said, after planting church, he greet those people. Now somebody went to Rome to see Paul. Then after planting church in Antioch, then he now asked the person, I say, go back, greet Achaia. Achaia was the firstborn of the church. He said, greet them. That was how it works. After planting church, you will go back to another city. Then the person is established somebody there to handle the church, and the person must walk in accordance to the doctrine of Christ. The person must not deviate from the doctrine, must not deviate from the true teaching. Thereafter, it is only when they need his attention, they call his attention. In the 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 20, we see that He now say, despise not the church of God, because it is not eating and drinking. He instructed them. He also advised them. That is what he owed the church. After planting church and he left another city, he will only advise the church. He instructed them, say, church is not drinking, eating and drinking. That is not church. Church is not a place of eating and drinking. No, it's not a business center. It is not where you make money. Paul told them in the 1 Corinthians chapter 16 verse 22. It's not a place of eating and drinking. After planting church, established people. We also see in Ephesians chapter 3 verse 10. After preaching, after planting church, you see power. And then now after planting that, you see day and night he was praying for them. He was praying for these people. He was asking God for wisdom upon the person that was establishing that place. This is the procedures to plant the church. After planting, establish somebody, you pray for the person. Also admonish the person once in a while, give counseling, but wrote a letter to them as an advice. And not only that, churches are one. In those days, churches were one because they run one doctrine, because church was not owned by anybody. Since it was not owned by anybody, the church that Peter planted, church that Paul the Apostle planted, the church that Luke planted, Peter can go to the church that Paul the Apostle planted, because churches were one. Nobody owns the church. They have no name. Church became one. That is why they have authority. Anywhere you go, church in the Rome is the same thing with church in Jerusalem. Church in Jerusalem is the same church in Judea. In as much as you're a Christian, you identify yourself to any of the church. It's a church of God. And based on this injunction, you now see these are the procedures to plant a church. The procedure. Now that also call to the Macedonian call. After planting church in Macedonia, Paul the Apostle left to another city, to Rome. Then the people were having a little conflict and crisis. There was a Macedonian call. Angel appeared to Paul. Go to Macedonia and help them. And the people were also crying. Say, Paul, come to Macedonia and help us. Come to Macedonia and help us. The people were ready to receive him. That is when you are called to come and help them. If they have difficulty, they now invite evangelists to come and give them assisting hands. That is how to plant a church. Not after planting a church, you now see it from every nook and cranny. Bring tithe, bring offering, and let us have it to the headquarter church. Let us use it to run the church. That is not. It's no longer a church. It becomes a business center. Based on this fact, we pause for the moment. More explanations is available on request.